Okay, in this Retrospect module, we're going to be talking about the installation of the Retrospect software and the components on the drive that are currently installed or become installed after running Retrospect's installer. Retrospect uses a standard Microsoft installer. The folder will look like this with a setup.exe, and then you'll get some choices of either installing Retrospect, Retrospect client software, and then you can also view the README or the user's guide. So if we choose install Retrospect, it goes through the installation. Now typically the user will not need to restart the computer after installation. And it should only take a moment for it to install. And we click next, and we get the standard license agreement, next, and then it will install for all users on the machine. Now when you're doing this installation, it's good to be logged in as administrator or having the administrator privileges for the local machine. Otherwise, the installation may not have access to all of the necessary Windows components to complete. So we execute the install. And as I said earlier, you typically don't need to restart after this installation, although it's good practice to restart after any install. On Windows XP Service Pack 2, Retrospect will ask you if you would like to open up the firewall to continue the installation. And we're going to go ahead and allow the firewall to be opened. You'll also see the same thing on Windows 2003, so that the appropriate firewalls can be. Okay, so after the installation, you choose Finish, and then you can close the installer window. And then Retrospect will appear under the program files in the at the very bottom. And you still have Retrospect and then Retrospect 7. When you open the program the very first time, it's going to ask you for a license code, as you can see here. Okay, and to enter the license code, you can type it here. You click Next, and you have what we call the Getting Started wizard. And inside this window, if you have additional license codes for add-ons like SQL, Exchange, or OpenFile, you have the ability to enter those license codes in this window. If you purchase those add-ons later on, then you can enter them at a different stage when using the program. So for now, we're going to go ahead and we're not going to enter any additional codes. We're going to click Next, and we're going to give it the default computer name. And then Retrospect is going to ask us, how do we want to run? Do we want to run Retrospect as a specified user, or do we want to run it as the currently logged in user? The specified user is an important option if you're doing SQL or Exchange, so that you can enter in authentication to get to the SQL server or the Exchange server. For this demonstration, we're going to run Retrospect as the currently logged in user, and we're going to click Next. And then we're not going to perform a backup right now, and so we're going to say Finish. Okay, so this is what we call the Retrospect directory. We're going to go ahead and minimize this so we can see what components get installed by Retrospect. When you go to My Computer and you open up the C drive, you're going to find inside Program Files there is a Dance folder, and inside the Dance folder will be the Retrospect 7 folder, and inside that will be the various parts of the Retrospect software. In here will be some items we're going to go to later, specifically the Reports Watcher and some documentation folder and some client update files, which we'll also be looking at later in the training modules. If we close this and return to the C drive, and if we also go to Documents and Settings, All Users, Application Data, which is normally hidden, you'll find a Retrospect folder. And this folder is the main Retrospect preference folder. And in here you're going to find the operations log, which is basically a text file, which contains all of your Retrospect activities that you've seen over time. And then we also have the main Retrospect preference file, which is config7.dat. And when we quit the program, you'll also see a retroconfig 7.back file that will appear. That is the backup file that gets updated every time you close the program.